Hey, true believers and fellow Mouseketeers, it's Englentine, the homegrown tourist, with my worst of Disney 2D animation list. This was a tough one to make. It really was. I at first wanted to do just from the worst all the way to the best, but I found out that's going to be a 3-hour video, so I figured, okay, yeah, we're going to have to cut it down. Well, I'll slice them in half here. Problem being is when you do something like this, some good movies end up on your worst list if you cut it in half. There's only a few films that I actively dislike, and the others, basically all I did was, which ones am I most excited about seeing? Which ones am I okay with just letting go and never seeing again? That's what ended up on this list. Not particularly bad films, and I do recommend to everybody you see all of the 2D animated films from Disney, because what's good to me may not be good to you, and what's bad to me may not be bad to you. So by all means, let me know in the comments below where I got this right, where I got this wrong, and what are your top 24 worst 2D animated films from Disney. That's what's right here. We've got 24 films to talk about. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Number 24. Oliver and Company. Yes, this is one of the movies that kind of pains me to have on this list, and there's two others here as well. I like this film a lot. When I first saw it, I loved this film. Now, this is coming off of Great Mouse Detective. This is the movie that was playing when I worked at Disney as a fruit suit wearing tiki bird hosting cast member. I also worked the Treehouse and for a little bit Jungle Cruise. By the way, yeah, you're not supposed to go off script a lot in Jungle Cruise, FYI. So anywho, this movie came out, and of course the big sell was the soundtrack. Billy Joel's Why Should I Worry, Why Should I Care was huge. I love the opening song by Huey Lewis and the News. We have Bette Midler having a great song as her character Bernadette. It was just a ton of fun. It really is. It's the tale of Oliver Twist, and you do have the Dodger. That's Billy Joel's character here. They let him voice the character. He does okay. He's not a professional actor, but at least he sells the role fine. The animation is great. It's still using that darker lined art. I really like that. This is, in my opinion, the last film of the Dark Age. But it's a fun film. It's a good film. And at this point, Disney is really bringing itself back. I thought these characters are fine. You have an eclectic cast, really, as far as the dogs are concerned. Cheech Marin's in it as well. And you have, like I said, you have Billy Joel. One of the dogs is played by a Pointer sister, and I thought that was kind of funny. Overall, it's entertaining, but when I went back and watched it again, I found myself kind of fidgety. You know, it wasn't as good as I remembered. When the hype died down, the story flaws come out, the flaws in the animation stand out, the fact that there aren't really, that the villain's not really all that memorable. And while it's still fun and it's still entertaining, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it before, because you might get that same feeling that I got when I first saw it. And at the very least, when you watch it, you're going to get the music stuck right on in your head. And let's face it, come on, 80s music was better. You can ask, better than what? It was just better. We all know that. You know that, I know that. And why should I worry? Right here you have, what is it? Pretty is nice, but still it's just pretty. Perfect, my dear. That is such a lot of fun. All the music is really good, and you're going to get your toes tapping, and Why Should I Worry will be stuck in your head forever and a day until you die, the same way as it is with me. Number 23. Melody Time. I know, all of these movies during the war era where they're just doing anthology after anthology are supposed to be bad. It's the worst time other than the dark period after Walt died. But this is a good time. This is one of the good ones. There's one more that's better, but this is one of the good ones. It's got Once Upon a Winter Time, which is just an enjoyable little story. And that's one of the better things. Unlike Saludos Amigos or Three Caballeros, this has a narrative to it. with their little short subjects. It's a whole bunch of little cartoons put to music, and it's so entertaining, so enjoyable. Bumble Boogie I like, as you see kind of like the flight of the bumblebee as a bug's trying to escape the music. You have the Little Toot, which is about a little tugboat. It's a lot of fun. Trees is very interesting because you have the artists kind of making it up as they go, or at least that's what they say they're doing, whatever the music inspires them to do. Blame It on a Samba is a throwback to Saludos Amigos and Three Caballeros. Probably, in my opinion, the weakest of the bunch. The two best, however, is Pecos Bill, which basically is the legend of Pecos Bill. It's a fun story, but it ends on a somber note, which kind of makes me wonder why they didn't put that as the second to last, and the last one be Legend of Johnny Appleseed, which is such an amazing story. It should have been a movie by itself. Unfortunately, it wasn't, but it's thoroughly entertaining. You really do get to like Johnny Appleseed, and it is entirely inspirational. The best of the bunch, and the movie is a lot better than you may have heard and should be checked out. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you haven't seen it before, and if you have seen it, you probably know I'm telling the truth. Number 22, The Rescuers. I have to admit, I've got a soft spot for this movie because it was the very first Disney animated film that I saw in the theaters, and I've loved it ever since. And it's very enjoyable. Granted, when I go back and watch it, it does suffer a little bit here and there, but it's about this woman who holds this little girl, Penny, hostage while she basically uses her small size to go get this diamond. And I remember being so scared back in the day because the diamond was in the skull. Anyway, Penny writes a message in a bottle, which is received by the Rescue Aid Society, a group of mice that go around and help people and creatures that are in trouble. Of course, the mouse and the lion, they had a picture there that showed that was their first time helping larger creatures. And they go off to rescue Penny and get her out of the trouble that she's in. I thought this was fun and funny and intense. Everything I ever wanted in a movie as a kid. When I watch it now, I could kind of see the flaws in the cloth. It's still a good film. It's still very entertaining, very enjoyable. But the villainess is really one note. A kind of a Cruella de Vil ripoff. And overall, the art is kind of, there's no real backgrounds to it. I know it's a Don Bluth style and everything, but in the end, while it's entertaining, it falls in the center of the countdown or at the very beginning of the worst list, and I hate that it does because I still enjoy this film, and as I said, it will always have a soft spot in my heart right there. I recommend you watch it, definitely if you're like me, a Disney completionist, and you have to see everything. I do believe some kids may be a little bit bored, and I'm sad to say about that. Otherwise, I liked it still. Number 21, Tarzan. So I'm kind of surprised at how much my children enjoyed this version of Tarzan. I was watching it with them, and I thought, wow, this is a beautiful film. They really do the jungle well. I hate to use this overused term for it, but it's lush. It's full. You get a sense of the world around Tarzan when you're watching this film. It's a little bit ridiculous that they have him foot surfing on trees because of the moss. I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of splinters there, guy. You'd really do work on your feet in the morning. It's kind of ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun at the same time. I'm also glad that they don't have a singing, dancing Tarzan. That was going to be a bit of a pill to swallow had they gone in that direction. Instead, of course, they use Phil Collins songs, but they're sparse. There is one where Rosie O'Donnell is doing a scat with the other apes as they destroy a camp. I think it's actually called Destroying the Camp. And it's entertaining, it's enjoyable, but in all honesty, my favorite song is actually sung by one of the apes. It's Glenn Close doing Kala as Tarzan's mom. Once again, I think the big star here is the animation and how they did the jungle. The bad guy is your typical bad guy around the time that was like into riches. and getting rich off of Tarzan and such like that. You had a problem with that with like in Atlantis also, which I love that film as well, but they had a bad guy problem. That one more than Tarzan even. Overall, though, very entertaining. I like the relationship between Tarzan and Jane. I did actually enjoy the relationship between Tarzan and his friends, including, yes, Rosie O'Donnell as Turk. The animation is great. The humor is there, but it doesn't overpower the adventure of the film, which really should be the focus when you're working on a Tarzan movie. In the end, this is one of those films that I liked, but when you split the Disney movies down, these are the ones that would be on your best list. These are the ones that unfortunately end up on the worst. Yeah, so far I'm still liking the movies that are on these worst lists. Yeah, and I might sound more enthusiastic towards this film than I did numbers 22, 23, and 24, but still, I think this deserves its place. Once again, as beautiful as it is, as fun as it is, ultimately, it's also a little bit forgettable. Number 20. Who put the glad in Gladiator? Hercules. Alright, this is just like a lot of the Guy films. No wonder they push the princesses so much. Think about this. We got Tarzan, Hercules, Treasure Planet, and the Atlantis movie, all starring guys, all kind of did middling business to not as good business when it comes to Treasure Planet. It's no big surprise. So we're like, hey, they don't like guys in the movies. Push the princesses. Seriously, it's the 2000s that did it right here, gang. This was actually in the 90s, but it was a fun film. Hercules is an entertaining movie. You can't get past that. It's still a case of there's 24 better films and this is the 24 worst films. You know, that doesn't mean they're unlikable. That doesn't mean they're really bad. In this case, it's entertaining, it's fun, but just like with Tarzan, it is ultimately forgettable. I don't think the animation is as good as Tarzan. That's why this is here on the list in this particular position. And if you think this is bad, wait until the next one. You're going to get pissed at me. But right here, we're dealing with something where I think it's like the opposite of Tarzan. Tarzan was a beautiful film, didn't have the songs. Phil Collins put in a couple of them, and I did like Going Close, as I said. But these are a lot of fun. Hercules' introduction, the Michael Bolton one that they sang, I thought was pretty good. And, of course, one of my favorite songs that Disney put out is in this film, and that's I Won't Say I'm in Love, the one that Megara sings. Add to that, you have James Woods as Hades, and this movie's... I think that's the most memorable thing about this entire film. There you go. That's Hercules. Number 19. The Lion King. Yes, I know I'm going to get crap for this from all the children who were born like in 1990 and remember this. Oh my gosh, it's the best film ever. I think everybody from 85 until, to 1990 are going to be doing that to me because this is their movie, man. This is the one that they saw when they were kids, and it affected them so hard. I'm sorry, gang. I was 25, and I watched this, and I went, I've seen it. I mean, I've seen this movie a lot. And didn't I just watch this from a Japanese cartoon? Yeah, I had seen Kimba. I watched this, and it didn't affect me in the same way. I do like the songs. I've got to admit, Elton John wrote a great soundtrack right here. And it's not a complete waste. It's not a complete waste of time. There is fun to be had here. I like Nathan Lane as Timon. Pumbaa, gosh, I keep forgetting the guy's name, but they're a great pair, and I do enjoy them. I'm actually a Matthew Broderick fan, so I kind of dug that, but I'm sorry, gang, it just didn't affect me the same way it did you kids. I watched it, I was like, nuts. I mean, we just came from Beauty and the Beast and then Aladdin, and now you're going to show me this? It just wasn't as good as those two. A lot of people felt that Disney started to pair off at Pocahontas. For me, it started right here because man, you went Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. To me, it was so good. And Lion King was so okay. It was fine. There was nothing really bad to say about it. But when it came right down to it, not that much great to say about it either. So there you go. That's my feelings about The Lion King. I know I'm kind of sounding apologetic while I describe it. Just remember, kids, when you're yelling at me in the comment section, be gentle. Be kind. Number 18. Cinderella. Okay, so here's a little bit of an unpopular opinion. I don't think Cinderella is weak. I know this. A lot of feminists go after this because she really doesn't do anything to help herself. The prince meets her, and it's all based on beauty, and it's just a random foot that fits the shoe, and so really it's all luck, and there's nothing to the heroine herself. And I think, yeah, you know what? You're not really paying attention too much if you have that particular point of view, I think. I mean, let's look at what's going on. Cinderella lost her father, lost her mother, and is now stuck with her stepmother, who, by the way, is expertly played by Eleanor Audley, who not only did Lady Tremaine, but went on to do Maleficent as well. So, hey, Disney legend right there. But she perseveres through all of this. That takes strength. That takes an inner strength. Granted, there's nothing to the prince, and I'll give you that. This is really about the side characters, and then, of course, Cinderella. The prince doesn't have anything to do with it. The other complaint, of course, is that it just so happens that this shoe only fits Cinderella. Yeah, it was made by her godmother. It was made by her fairy godmother. Of course, the slipper is only going to fit her foot. Ta-da! I solved that particular mystery from it. Seriously, there's just so much I think that people are missing in Cinderella. I do believe, and this is why this is on this side of the list and not the best side, I do think that a lot of the film is filler with the cute animals and everything. And it really should be as short as Dumbo, maybe even a short, not a full-length feature film. But it's good to see Disney back to making full-length movies. I think this has one of the best villains in Lady Tremaine, so there is a lot positive to say about it, but just not enough to keep it out of the bottom 24.